We're here to protect you and the ones that you love. It's a good feeling to know that our efforts aren't going unnoticed.
It actually brought tears to my eyes to know that we have this support.
You're welcome. I must just say, you're welcome. It's stressful, but we're not going anywhere.
Welcome to another edition of Bucknell Men's Swimming and Diving Through the Decades. Tonight we have the decade of the 2000s. My name's Todd Newcomb. We've got a great group of alums joining head coach Dan Schinnerer and one of our current student athletes, Leo Kuehl, a sophomore from New Paltz, New York. We're really excited to have Leo on the call. I want to thank Geisinger as our partner for this. Geisinger has done a great job throughout the pandemic, and as always, they do a fantastic job with our student athletes here at Bucknell on a day-in, day-out basis. So let me get right to it and introduce our guest, and then I'll turn it over to Coach Schinnerer. Our first guest from the class of 2003 is Stephen Schwanhausser. Stephen was the team captain during the 2002-2003 season. He graduated with school records in the 100 and 200 breaststroke, while his father, Roger, class of 75, also swam for the Bison and set school records in the 100 back and 200 IM. They are the only father-son combination in school history in any sport to have held school records. Among Bucknell's all-time top 10 list, Stephen ranks 6th in the 200 breast and 9th in the 100 breast. He was a two-time All-Patriot League selection. Our next guest from the class of 2006 is Todd Bauer. Todd was a team captain during the 05-06 season. He was a four-time All-Patriot League selection. He was an academic All-District 2 team selection in 2006. He won the Stein Door Award as the team's MVP in 2006, and he won the Edward W. Pangburn Award at the Athletic Department's Senior Awards Dinner. Our next guest is also from the class of 2006, one of the best divers in school history, Adam Freeman. He was a team captain during the 05-06 season. He holds the school records in the 1 meter and 3 meter boards with 11 dives, and also the 1 meter board with 6 optionals. And the 1 meter and 3 meter boards with 6 dives, he ranks 2nd and 4th respectively. And on the 3 meter with 6 optionals, he ranks 3rd. I'm asking you to explain that. That's diver jargon. He can get to that when we get into the call later. He was a Patriot League individual champion on the 1 meter board in 2002. He was a two-time All-Patriot League selection. He was the ECAC 1 meter board champion in 2002. He was chosen as the Patriot League Scholar Athlete for swimming and diving in both 2003 and 2005. He was an academic All-District 2 second team selection in 2005 and a first team honoree in 2006. Our next guest from the class of 2006 is Mark Kretzer. Mark was the Patriot League champion in the 200 fly in 2002 and in the 100 back in 2003, and he was a four-time All-Patriot League selection. Our next guest from the class of 2009 is Mark Kovchinsky. He was a team captain during the 08-09 season. He's among the Bucknell's all-time top 10 list. He ranks 3rd in the 50 free, 3rd in the 100 back, and 7th in the 100 free. He's also part of 5 relay units that rank on the all-time top 10 list. He was a two-time individual Patriot League champion, capturing the 100 back twice and also the 50 free. Mark also captured 3 Patriot League gold medals as part of winning medley relay units. He was a 4-time All-Patriot League selection and won the Deerstein Door Award as a team's MVP in 2009. Mark also won the Christy Mathewson Award at the Athletic Department's Senior Awards Dinner. Our next guest from the class of 2010 is Luke Trafton. Luke was the team captain during the 09-10 season. He owns a school record in both the 1,000 and 1650 free, and he ranked 2nd in the 500 free and 8th in the 200 free among the all-time top 10 list. He's part of a 400-yard freestyle relay unit that ranks 7th. He was a 3-time Patriot League individual champion, winning the 1650 free twice and also the 500 free. He was tapped as a Patriot League Rookie of the Meet at the 2007 championships, and he was a 4-time All-Patriot League selection. In addition, Luke was the ECAC champion in the 1650 free in 2008. So another great group of swimmers. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, I'd like to start by thanking everybody for taking time to join us tonight. It's definitely a group with a lot of accolades, and what we hope to do is spend some time reliving some memories, passing on some advice. But before we get into the past and kind of going down memory road, We'd just like to go around and get an update on where you're at right now, both geographically, where you call home right now, where you're at professionally, what you're up to on that front, and also an update personally. Are you married, kids, things like that? And so as we've all kind of gotten accustomed to in what I call Zoom land, we'll go around kind of the boxes here, and I'll just kind of call each person and we'll work our way through. And so Todd, you are my first bubble to the right, so I'll let you kick us off here.
Thanks, Dan, and thank you, Todd, for the introductions. Yeah, I live in my hometown. I live in Harleysville, Pennsylvania. I left Bucknell and I taught and coached swimming. I have climbed the ranks in administration in school, so I'm an assistant superintendent after being a high school principal in the North Penn School District, so a large school district outside of Philadelphia, 13,000 kids. My wife, Nicole, and I have 2 kids. They are 10 and 8. And life is good. So it's everything I could have hoped for, aside from the pandemic, of course. And working in schools it's just not a good time. It's not a good time for anybody, but it's really horrible in school.
Yeah, I can imagine there's been a lot of challenges and decisions in the last several months, like you said, for everybody. But knowing what's going on with the schools, that's definitely a challenge.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you, Dan.
All right, we'll kind of move along. Adam, you're going to be our next person up.
Hey everybody. So I am living in New York City currently. Been here for about 8 years, did a stint in Chicago prior to that. I am married. My wife Rachel was also Bucknell 2006. We have 2 children. My daughter is 5 and I have a son who is 3. So we've been navigating all the school stuff from the parent side of the world this fall, which has been fun. And on the professional side, I work for a small private equity investment firm here in the city.
All right, thanks, Adam. Mark, Mark Kretzer, I know you share some of the challenges that I personally have been facing lately. So give us your
Yeah. I also graduated 2006 with Todd and Adam. Currently, I'm in Mendham, New Jersey. I live with my wife, who I met at Stephen Schwanhausser's wedding, actually. So a little connection there. I have 2 kids. One is in kindergarten. So again, kind of dealing with the issues of a COVID world with education. Definitely challenging, of course. And I have another 2-year-old daughter as well. Professionally, as Dan alluded to, I'm also a head coach for a Division I swim team, St. Peter's University in Jersey City. And then also I am a small business owner, just to kind of make all the ends meet. As Dan knows, you gotta hustle as a swim coach or a coach in any athletic area. So I have a couple side hustles as well that I work on.
Thanks, Mark. Luke, you can go next.
Yeah, so I currently live in Sterling, Virginia. It's like 30 minutes west of DC. And right after Bucknell, I actually coached swimming for 4 years, 2 years up in Maine, where I grew up, and then 2 years down in Northern Virginia. And then I moved into the software space and currently am a project manager at a software consulting company. And we mainly work on federal contracts, some nice fun stuff. Well, I got engaged last November, so almost a year ago. We have our wedding planned for Memorial Day weekend of 2021. So fingers crossed that that's going to be able to happen. No kids, but a couple dogs that are currently walking around wanting attention. But
all right, thanks, Luke. Stephen, you're up next.
Luke, your wedding's going to happen. I'm banking on it. Memorial Day, we're back. So I live in Rowayton, Connecticut, and I'm pissed at Mark for moving to New Jersey because he used to be right across Long Island Sound and we could actually see each other. I'm married to another swimmer, but not from Bucknell. She went to BC, but grew up actually competing sort of around and against her. We had 3 kids, 8, 6, and 2, and a puppy. And I joined Kraft right out of college for a couple of years, and then I got into executive search. So I run the consumer vertical for a search firm, and I've been doing that for the last 15 years.
Okay.
Nice to be here.
And then our other Mark K on the call.
Yeah, you don't want to know what they called me when Mark Kretzer was around. And
Actually, I think I know that, but
I know you do. Thanks, Todd. I'm Mark Opchinsky, 2009. I'm living in New York City, in Queens, Long Island City. After Bucknell, I went to Lehigh for a graduate degree in engineering, worked in engineering for about 6 years, and then I had enough of it. Currently, I work in technology and advertising technology for a small wing of Comcast called Freewheel, and I work with the engineers and product managers there. Currently living with my fiance in Long Island City, and we're kind of just watching a lot of Netflix. We don't have that many responsibilities, and we both are doing okay. So sorry, people with kids. I I don't envy you. I know it must be really tough right now, and fortunate to still be working and having some semblance of a normal life, considering the situation for many people.
thanks, Mark. And so I appreciate everybody giving us kind of the update on where they're at now. And so as we begin our kind of look back, what the first question we have for everybody is, what was the recruiting process like for you? That's definitely evolved and changed and continues to evolve, in that it became earlier and earlier, even in my time at Bucknell. And now we're just recruiting virtually, and people are having to make commits after a couple of Zoom phone calls and a virtual tour of campus. Hopefully we'll go back to some more in-person recruiting in the near future. But could you share with us what your recruiting experience was like and what ultimately led you to decide to come to Bucknell? So again, we'll kind of go around the same pattern we did. We'll start with Todd.
Yeah, I think my recruiting was a fairly traditional path, I would assume. Fill out the forms online because I was interested in Bucknell, submit my times, that kind of thing. I think I got recruited by most of the Patriot League schools and the Ivy League schools, a couple others that I just used to help me negotiate with Bucknell. And honestly, my recruiting trip, I think Steve Schwanhausser might have had something to do with me wanting to go to Bucknell. I went, I loved it, and the numbers were right, and that's how I ended up there. I think, Mark, was I on my recruiting trip with you?
Yeah, it was me, you, and Brian.
Yeah,
Cole.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, it was a pretty epic weekend. It was wonderful, so much fun, and I ended up kind of rooming with Mark and the other gentleman he just spoke of, Brian Cole, pretty much all 4 years. So yeah, it was pretty textbook. So no great stories. It was just a great time, and always where the only, I guess, interesting wrinkle is I was considering playing water polo. I was probably a better water polo player than I was swimmer in high school, but I had 2 shoulder surgeries in high school from water polo. So that kind of ended the whole water polo thing, and I just swam. So I wanted to play polo. I settled for swimming, and I'm glad I did.
Very good. All right. Adam, how about from a diving perspective? What was the recruiting process like for you?
Sorry. Yeah, so I think it's a little bit different for divers. For us, it was a VHS videotape of some of our performances so that coaches could watch rather than just submitting times. But yeah, I mean, I was coming from the Chicago suburbs, so not really a core target recruiting for, Patriot League and others, but given that I had a lot of family on the East Coast, I was pretty set on sort of a smaller, non-urban school that had engineering in the Northeast. And so, Bucknell very quickly rose to the top of my list. And, I made the rounds and visited the schools and talked to the coaches. And, just from day one, it always seemed like just a great fit for me in terms of just the culture of the school and the campus and, all that it had to offer for me. So it was, it made sense, and it was a match. And early decision process later, I was coming to Bucknell.
All right, thanks. Mark Kretzer, sounds like you shared at least a little bit of an experience with Todd.
Yeah. I think my whole process was actually pretty similar to Todd's and how he explained, just going, actually, a lot of it's similar to it is now, just getting getting on the questionnaire form online and making yourself known to the coach, is the easiest way to do it. You don't need any of those fancy or expensive recruiting agents or anything like that you see now with swimming, because it's all about your time. So, but yeah, just went on a recruiting trip. I think the biggest thing for me is just that recruiting trip, because, before that, everything was all about numbers and all about kind of like statistics and, where things are and what things looked like on paper. But then once you go on that recruiting trip and you get a feel for not just like the feeling on campus, but the feeling of the team and the culture of the team. And I think that's where it was kind of like a dead fit for me when I went on that visit. It just kind of, the people on the team, the sophomores, juniors, that were going to be on the team the following year, just kind of, sold it for me that I wanted to be a part of that group. And that's where, with me as a coach now, I always kind of tell the kids on my team, it's so important when you have people there on an official visit that, that's what is going to decide it for them. And that's what decided it for me 100%. So, yeah, that was basically it. And, the final thing is I do remember that Coach Foley at the time came to my senior. I actually decided very late. Like I didn't decide until like April. I think it was at Y Nationals down in Fort Lauderdale at the Hall of Fame pool. I remember being in the hotel and talking to my mom on the phone, and just having Coach Foley like show up in person to come to some of my meets and everything like that, I think made a big difference. And he was kind of the only coach that I remember doing that. So, went above and beyond, and that was kind of what sealed the deal. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think memories of Y Nats in Fort Lauderdale, definitely. Luke, what are your recollections of the process?
So mine was a little different. I actually only went on one official recruiting trip, and that was to Lehigh. But one of my friends and members of the Bucknell swim team in my class, Spencer Hollowell, at the time we visited Bucknell, his older brother, who also swam for Bucknell, I believe he was getting his master's at Bucknell. So we kind of did an unofficial just visit on a random weekend because we couldn't kind of match up an official recruiting weekend between Lehigh and just other stuff in the fall. So we went, and I believe Mark Kretzer was there too. And we met a few of pretty much some of the people who weren't even going to be there anymore by the time we got there. But I just remember, just even though we didn't have an official like recruiting weekend, just the campus and everything that, Matt was a good salesman talking about the school. And at the time I was really interested in civil engineering, and Bucknell has an outstanding civil engineering program. So that coupled with the swim program, just, I don't know. I didn't even have to go on an official visit to make my choice. So it was a little different, but still kind of, it was an easy decision.
Yeah, well, thanks. And as Todd Newcomb alluded to, or not alluded to, described in the intro, Stephen, you had some Bucknell connections kind of going into that process. Did that help you choose Bucknell, or was that something to overcome in choosing Bucknell?
Yeah, I was going to say, Dan, I think if anybody complains about the length of a recruiting process, I think I was like in the womb when it first started. This T-shirt's from 1983 because I went to go to Bucknell weekends with all my parents, swimming crew, for years and years. So up until like age 12 or 13, all I wanted to do was go to Bucknell. In fact, I think when I was in 8th grade was the first time I met Adam Puff, because we were both back for an alumni weekend, palling around campus. So, but when it actually got time to think about schools, I really didn't want to go where my parents went, sort of the natural teenage thing. But I wanted to play polo and swim, and there were only a number of schools in the Northeast that would do that. And I got down to Dartmouth, Williams, and Bucknell, and I really thought I was going to go to Dartmouth. And actually, I think if my dad was honest, he was probably thinking that was the direction I was going to go to. But then I came on a recruiting trip, and the girls were just so much more attractive. It was over. So Sunday morning, I came off the recruiting trip. It was like, coming to Bucknell, that's it. So it worked out perfectly, but it was a little bit of a circuitous journey to get there, but all great.
Yeah. All right. And another one with some family connections to Bucknell, Mark, what was your process like?
Sure. So my older brother Matt went to Bucknell. He played football at Bucknell. I think he was a 2003 grad, if I remember correctly. But in my high school senior year, I kind of bumbled through the year, not really sure what I was doing. I played football and baseball and swam in high school in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And I was at States that was held for the first time ever, I believe, at Kinney Natatorium at Bucknell. And I remember being like, well, this pool is awesome. And then I did pretty well, got second, I believe, in the 100 back. And then I got home and basically had a call from Coach Foley at the time. And then like the next weekend, essentially, I came back down for an official visit. Meeting, I think, Mark, I remember Todd. I stayed with Tyler Sowell and Brad Bennett. And I think the process, I mean, I was always considering Bucknell because my brother, and it was always in the list. I already had applied. It was very late in the process for me to be going on a visit, but I already had all my papers in. I think what really sealed it for me is what Mark said, is the team and like getting to know everybody, talking to everybody, knowing you'll have that group of people in the pool like 9 times a week or whatever the limit is. And then outside the pool as well, which is really what made my decision for me.
And so I know Todd introduced Leo at the start, but just to kind of reintroduce him, Leo is currently a sophomore on the team, was our leading sprint freestyler last year, 50-100 guy. Still trying to figure out exactly what that third event is to go with it. But our pentathlon winner from a couple weeks ago, so he's showing some versatility, and also was a member of the group that set the 400 freestyle relay record. So has already done some great things for us, and I think has definitely got a bright future ahead. And so I know he's got a question for this one. After he asked, knowing that's kind of a bigger question, we'll kind of just open it up and kind of move away from the round table. So go ahead, Leo.
Thanks, Dan. It's just really nice to see you guys. It's awesome getting to be on this call. I think the question I had was just, what advice would you give for myself or any of the other swimmers or divers on their team about the college swimming and diving experience at Bucknell?
All right, so I guess I have the easy job of going first. I don't know. I'm somebody, and I'm sure some of the guys on the call will make fun of me for this, but I'm one of those people that's always in a hurry. I always have to be early. I always have to be the first one in the water. I do everything that way, and I feel like I almost wished it away because I was always in a hurry. And I look back on it and think about how great life was. I sound like an old man, but my goodness, it was great. The best moments are like the calf sits. I know you can't do calf sits right now. Or, the Saturday afternoons by 1 o'clock, there's zero responsibility. And all you're thinking about is what you're going to do that night. Those are, it's so cliche, but slow it down, try to enjoy it. Don't wish it away because you'll spend the rest of your life wishing you were back there. That's it. So sorry guys if I took your answer, but it's a pretty cliche
that was
answer.
my answer too, Chad. And I think I have notes on the side of my screen here, but that is so true. And thinking back to you get so hyped up for Patriots and so hyped up for your races, and that's like the focus of all of your day. I think spending a little extra time on the little things, like not even like doing the little things for longer, but paying attention. Like Todd said, the calf sits or being with your team, like walking out of the Saturday morning practices together, walking up the hill and your hair freezes, like paying attention to those things and just like really acknowledging that they exist, because before you know it, you're at Patriots and then all of a sudden it's your senior year and it's Patriots. And just like notice the stuff that's in between the big events, because I think that's the most memorable.
Hello. All right. Yeah. I just a couple quick things to, again, Todd, of course, you always steal my line as always, but just a couple quick things to kind of, compound on what they both just said. Just, not even just your time at Bucknell, but also just your time after Bucknell. I always try to tell the people that are, on my team that have their ears open for me to talk at, just, not to be in such a hurry in life, to get to that next step, to get that first job, get the next job, climb the ladder. just to kind of always be present and be kind of, present with what you have currently in front of you, and just, acknowledge that, some people say life is short, but I honestly think that the opposite, that life is long, and you do have a lot of time to accomplish everything that you want to accomplish, and try to just, be happy where you are. So in that instance, when you're at college, like, again, don't look towards what you're going to do. Obviously, preparing in advance is important, but just you're really being present in the moment, and just being, just look back and or at least look at your current situation, just being happy where you are, and just, being thankful that you have that opportunity, because as you can see now, a lot of people don't have that opportunity. You have swim programs that are getting cut. You have people, teams that aren't really practicing at all right now. So it just kind of like makes you really thankful for like the things that you do have and the time that you do have to spend with each other as teammates. So, just be thankful for that, for sure.
Somebody gave me advice once. They said it's a really exceptional person that can do academics, athletics, and social life well. So pick the two that you really care about. And then they said, don't let school get in the way of the experience. You grow up a lot. And so, I think you just dial in with everything that you can do in the classroom, but, in the pool. I know which two I picked. Everybody on this call, I think, knows which two I picked. But, just don't let the experience pass you by. I think it's very similar to what everybody else is saying, and get the most out of everything that Bucknell has to offer on all three levels.
Yeah, and I think the only a half step away from all the other great advice these guys have already given. But, I would also just point out and have you focus on the relationships that you have with your team, because being on a team through college is a very special thing, and the bond that you build with your teammates is going to last well beyond your time at school. I mean, I think you can see this from several of these guys who have stayed close and stayed in touch. And so, really embracing those relationships that you're building, because those can really be lifelong friendships.
Yeah, I would say it's easy to say now, but I'd say just don't view anything as a chore. I mean, it's definitely a privilege. I think we're all fortunate enough to have, been at Bucknell and met the people we did, swam, took the classes. I'm guilty of missing some practices, missing some classes. Definitely a few opportunities flew by, but, it's right after it's all said and done, you wish you had those extra opportunities to, work a little harder, study a little more, hang out with your friends a little bit more. So, I mean, it's pretty much everyone's saying a very similar thing. It's, nothing's a chore. Just, enjoy those early morning practices while you can. I know that sounds weird, but once they're gone, you kind of miss them in a weird way.
Do you though?
Yeah, no, great advice. And so thinking of that experience and some of those things that, maybe you wish you could have had a few more of, or just that thing that sticks out when you look back, that moment, that experience. And so if it's not the most memorable experience from your 4 years as part of the Bucknell swimming and diving team, maybe it's one of those things that really define that time. What are those memories that really define your experience here?
My favorite moment was, I still think, the one and only Patriot Championship for the men's team. And it was kind of like, don't say this to the actual New England Patriots, Falcons, I guess the Falcons, the 28-3 game. But going into the last night of Patriots, we had it pretty much buttoned up. And so the entire last night was just awesome. I mean, it was like we were floating on a cloud. I know Freeman was there, of course, Mark and Schwanny, and we knew going into finals that night that it was over, and it was just a victory lap, and it was so much fun feeding off of the energy. I think Mark won the 2 fly that night as a freshman. It was the dumbest race I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of races. I mean, he just absolutely sprinted the first 100. He was ahead by 25 yards and held on by half a stroke. It was just so much fun. That was over all the individual accolades or anything else that happened. That last night the whole 3 days was great, but the last night was just something special. It was I've never had more fun swimming in my whole life since I was 7.
Hey, Adam, speaking of that night, do you remember your diving coach doing flips off the diving board after the meet, fully clothed?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a recurring theme here, given the generation of people you have on the Zoom call, but I have to go with the same event, the 2002-2003 Patriot League Championships. I mean, because not only did we as a team run away with the event, the women also won. It was the inaugural season in the new pool, so it was our new sort of home turf. For me personally, I put in one of my personal best performances. That's when I won the league on the 1 meter, set a school record at the time. I had my entire fraternity there, so there were 80 people packing the stands up there, and it didn't matter if I did a belly flop. They just totally lost it every time I hit the water. And so the excitement and the energy in that building for the entire weekend was just, the stuff of sports movies, and is something I'll never forget.
I got to pile on. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I was just going to say we got, I think me and Todd got spoiled having that happen freshman year, and then expecting that to happen, the next 3 years. And that's where, obviously we had a great remainder of our 3 years, but I was just going to say that first year kind of spoiled us for sure in terms of, what you think you're going to get at the end of every season, to make all your hard work worth it. But obviously different for Steven, because that was kind of the culmination of 4 years that they look forward to, obviously. So.
Yeah, but you still have the best picture with the arm up in the air. So, I mean, you take that to the grave. I'll do a quick before, during, and after, because it's obviously that same event. I remember sneaking into the pool when it wasn't finished in the middle of the winter, and it was half full of water, and we jumped in and swam back and forth across, just because we wanted to be the first ones to swim in the pool. Sorry, Todd, it's long past. And then so that's the before. The during would be, we had 5 guys up on the 100 breast, all from Bucknell. And the announcer's like, that's a lot of orange and blue. And that was, I think, Todd, part of that tipping point when we got through Saturday and we were starting to run away with it. And then after was walking down Market Street with the trophy, and then inviting 2 of the Army guys that we'd competed with for 4 years to come to Patriot Party. And they just looked at us like, I can't believe you guys have been doing this for 4 years. It was awesome.
If I can pile on to that, sorry to belabor the point here, but the theme, our coach at the time always had a theme, and the theme that year was what we've been waiting for. And Freeman just shared, it was kind of poetic because the pool opened. And I think the 2 best performing classes were the senior class and the freshman class. Mark and I were both on the podium several times that year. And I think it was a good balance on the squad. The pool was open. The girls were finally there. The boys were, it was really, really special. So Adam, I think you said it best. It just kind of seemed, everything came to a head at once. It was pretty magical. I forgot about the trophy on Market Street. That was awesome.
I think Patriots for us, when I was there, obviously never won. A lot of good memories with that, but I think, and now I can't even recall this memory now. Maybe Luke, you probably know better than I, but the year we beat Army at Army.
That was mine. Yeah.
was that your freshman year?
That was my sophomore year.
So Dan, that was your sophomore year, right, Dan? Then
that's one way to put it. Yeah, it was my sophomore year.
But
I do recall the dual meet very well. And
what does that make him now?
I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, the meet went down we were pretty tight the whole meet. And I don't even remember what happened throughout the meet, but I know it went to the last relay, and whoever won the last relay was going to win. And I think Luke, were you on that last relay?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was me, you, I want to say.
I think I was supposed to be.
You got subbed in last minute. I remember it. And then it was, I think, also Brad and JB, or maybe Grant. It was Grant, Stedman, and JB. And we took it out, and we I don't remember how it even went down. I think, Luke, you have the video, or your mom has the video somewhere, but that was an awesome race. We beat Army. We've been struggling, getting close with them for the years before, and it came down to that last race, and it was awesome. It was winter. I think it was during training trip, maybe even. And it was just a fun, really awesome meet, really awesome ending. It was a great race.
Yeah, I mean, mine not gonna be much different. Same as Mark's, that meet. I remember it really well. It was just back and forth the whole time. I don't think any team got more than 20 points ahead of the other, and it was just back and forth, and then the relay. I still remember, Mark, you were third, and then you gave us the biggest lead going in, and then you gave me an easy job to anchor it. Pretty much, I just didn't have to blow it. That was it. But yeah, you're right. It was whoever took it, and yeah, I don't know. That was I honestly can't remember if we ended up beating Army at Patriots that year. I think we did. Yeah. So I mean, but that almost felt more exciting just because it was just everyone was so into it. It was two teams. I don't know. It was a good one.
Very good. And so just want to make sure, we got everybody on that one. So I know there's a lot of shared memories there, and that's part of the fun of this is reliving some of those things. Kind of on maybe the next step of that and thinking about those shared memories and those teammates. Who was a teammate that you respected or admired the most, or just learned the most from during your time at Bucknell?
This was a hard one when I was thinking about it, because there's a lot of inspiration I took from a ton of people, but Justin Schwartz comes to the top of the list for me. So he was a junior when I was a freshman. He was on campus early when I came for preseason polo training. We lived together. He ended up being a fifth-year master, engineering masters, and then was an assistant coach. So was tied in the program the whole time. And I guess the thing that stands out besides all the friendship stuff was just he was always a hard worker, and he was always up for everybody. So it didn't matter what, who was up, boy or girl. It didn't matter, whether he was really close with them or not. He was on the side of the deck cheering, and it was like that in practice, and he was like that, in every meet. And it didn't matter whether he was, putting points on the board or encouraging other people to do it. But I just constantly remember that passion and that inclusion, being part of all 5 years that he was there, and certainly the 3 I got to experience with him.
Schwani, I struggled with this question too. I couldn't think of, somebody, but I got an answer when you were answering one of the previous questions, and somebody that did all 3 things really well. And to borrow from Luke was Matt Hallowell. Matt was just one of the most brilliant minds I came across at Bucknell. A absolute workhorse, unlike some of the people in this call when it came to practice. Matt was not the most talented swimmer, neither was I, but he and I were kind of the workout warriors too, leading every practice, every set kind of thing. So he was a great athlete, and boy, did he like to have fun too, and seemed to manage it really, really well. I think Matt had his PhD in engineering by the time he was 23 or 4, and sold a company for significant money before he was 25. So I really looked up to Matt. He seemed to do all 3 things and manage it better than I did.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with everything Todd just said. Matt was definitely balancing is definitely a good way to put it. He definitely balanced everything really well. I think there's kind of 2 that share it for me. I think from a student athlete and then as a coach, I think I always try to, emphasize first impressions and the importance of like first years and first semesters of an athlete, especially now that everyone has like transferring on their mind with the transfer portal and all that nonsense. When I first came in, our first 2 captains was Steven Schwanhausser and Chris Feinthal. And I think both of them were huge in just shaping my overall impression of, the university and the team and just the culture of the team. They were both completely different in a lot of ways, but also shared a lot of similarities in terms of just their overall commitment to the team and commitment to, our overall goal to win Patriots that first year for me. I remember, I know Todd can probably attest to this. When we came in the first year, they were telling us in the first preseason meetings, like how we're going to win this year. Like we are going to win. And a lot of the freshmen would look at each other and be like, these guys are totally crazy. Like these guys are like, what are they talking about? Like there's 3 or 4 teams out there that like might look a lot stronger than us on paper. And Steven and Chris, especially, I think were the 2 that kind of, you know, were unwavering all year. And I think those 2 are the guys that I looked up to the most, just in terms of, you know, how to carry yourself in terms of a leader on the team, and just being positive and, you know, kind of always saying the right things and doing the right things. So yeah, those are my 2 that I would.
Pepperoni and bullets.
For me, again, you know, being the diver in the room, my experience a bit different. You know, particularly for me on that question, it's a little challenging because when I came in as a freshman, there were no upperclassmen divers. And so at no point in my time at Bucknell was there anyone older than me on the men's team on the diving side. But, you know, being sort of on the outside looking in and seeing all you guys down at the other end of the pool day in and day out, and, you know, we were in the weight room together at times, and certainly socially outside the pool together quite a bit. And, you know, I think as I thought through this, you know, I'm gonna agree with Mark here that Chris Beinthal really came to mind as somebody who always stuck out as really, you know, living and breathing and leading by example. He was always full of energy. Everyone very much respected him because he was always giving it his all. And so he was always somebody that, you know, I thought was a great leader on the team, and sort of engendered a lot of respect.
Yeah, this was a tough question. I mean, a lot of people came to mind, including people on this call for sure. Todd, Mark, I mean, and Adam, you guys were around when I was wee freshman wearing jammers on deck. But I think the one person that came to mind for me and was like a mentor to me kind of was Tyler Sowell. And he was a captain, I think maybe 2 years in a row, and really always the adult in the room, and just really was able to do that well, and kind of was a role model for me when I was my senior year captain, and making sure that everyone freshman through senior we're keeping it together, we're having balance with their social life, with school, and with swimming. And just he was really good at keeping everybody, men's and women's team together, and that was a really good role model. And thinking back now, and I've seen him recently, it's just he was great to come behind.
So I have to steal Mark's again. Mine is also Tyler. And I mean, training with the distance squad, we always practice in the little nerd box area together. So I practiced with Tyler every single day. When my freshman year, he was a junior, so I got to practice with him for 2 years. And I always like to think that I worked pretty hard in practice, but Tyler, you know, he would give everything he had all the time, and he would be the type who'd just be beat red. So you knew he was always giving it everything he had all the time. And like Mark said, he was a good leader. He always had command of the room. He never had to yell. You know, everyone respected him. He was really smart. You know, he did well at Bucknell in academics as well, you know, so he was just always someone we looked up to.
Thank you for all those memories. You know, we've been talking about kind of best memories and those experiences and the people that influenced you. But the next question, you know, I know that Leo has, is kind of how do you take these things and then translate it forward? So without trying to steal your thunder, Leo, what do you have for us?
Yeah, so my next question is kind of on the same note as the first one, is about advice. It's definitely something that I need to work on as well. But my question was, what advice do you guys have about like networking and finding the right job after Bucknell?
So I could hop in. The networking is so important just to start. Like, I think applying to jobs via LinkedIn or whatever, email me a resume at whatever.com, like that's fine. But like it's such low chance your resume is going to get picked out of that sack. I think looking for the connections, and with Bucknell, you have really good connections. Big schools have lots of alumni, but the alumni at Bucknell, I've found, if you poke them on LinkedIn, they're going to respond almost a very high percentage of the time. So use that avenue to kind of get connections. And then once you get your name in the door, it's all on you to kind of impress. No one's going to hand you anything. So use your network, keep up with those connections. And then once you're in the door, be ready for it. It's the opportunity, prepare for it. No one's going to hand you anything.
Yeah, I actually can attest to the networking power of Bucknell. I still actually get emails from various channels on the Bucknell campus about events. Those events, when I was living in New York City right after college, I think I might have even gone with Schwani to a couple of them at I think it was the Turtle Bay at the time. I remember seeing Willie Patterson there. I have to say, not that people are there to hand you anything in life, but when you are at those networking events and you start, chatting it up to people that are also Bucknell alumni, in a lot of ways, people are there to hand you opportunities. I remember being overwhelmed with people just saying, like, almost tugging you from one end of the room to the other, just people want to help you out. If you just kind of, make yourself be known out there. But like Mark said, at the same time, you kind of just have to let things, play out the way they're going to play out. I think everyone here in this room can attest that they're probably doing something professionally, maybe with the exception of Todd, who had his life chalked out on a a well-planned tablet before it even started. But I'm kidding though, in a lot of ways. I know, everyone here probably has a lot of aspects of their life that they never thought would be, where they would be at when they graduated college. So, like Mark just said, he spent his whole, first half of his life in engineering, and now he's kind of on the other side, which I really commend that. It takes a lot of courage to kind of just, take risks. And so just, yeah, I would just say, don't be afraid to take risks, and don't pigeonhole yourself. Don't, just because you get a degree in one thing doesn't mean that you're going to have to be in that field for the rest of your life. A lot of, very successful people that in, say, finance that have English degrees, people that are, so it's just, you kind of have to just let things play out and not, plan things out too much.
Yeah, I think, piggybacking on what you were talking about, while networking is certainly very powerful for finding a job ultimately, I think it can potentially be even more powerful for just learning about all the opportunities that are out there. I think looking back to the time when I was in college, my concept of the career opportunities that were even realistic or possible or even existed was a fraction of what is really out there. And I think, to Mark's point earlier, Bucknell alumni are always, in my experience, extremely willing to, connect with you, pick up the phone, have a chat, and people love talking about themselves too. And so, call someone up and just say, hey, I'd love to hear about your career, what you do, how you got where you got. And, they can just make you smarter about some of the different opportunities that are available that you may not have otherwise thought about. And I definitely would echo what Mark, the other Mark, said about, not feeling like you're pigeonholed at all by your course of study. Because, I was a mechanical engineer. I went into finance. My roommate, first year out of school, was also a Bucknell grad who also worked at the same firm as me. And he was a comparative humanities and philosophy major. So, it's really about where your interests lie. And I think Bucknell does a great job, preparing people for whatever field they want to pursue.
Yeah, I'd add, everything that's been said is absolutely right. In fact, my introduction to my current firm was through a Bucknell swimmer. So Steve Weining's a 74. I called because I thought I was going to go into technology, and he was doing tech recruiting, and I wanted advice. And next thing I knew, there was an introduction to doing something I had no idea I ever would end up doing. And he didn't do anything other than broker the connection. But I think part of it is, don't be afraid to be creative and ask for, tap into people. It's easy to go ask for a lead, and most people will try to lean in and do that. But if you come at it through a different conversation around learning something or developing something, as opposed to just asking for a job opportunity, that tends to hold a lot of water. And I think, no pun, by the way. And I also think that thinking about sports, everybody loves to talk to athletes. They do. But the normal answer is, I know how to work hard. I know how to balance lots of things. You think about the intricacies of a team and how that works, especially holding a team together. I mean, there were points in time that a number of you guys will remember during that championship year where the team was fraying, and we had to figure out how to keep it together and then keep it focused to win. And I think that an individual sport like swimming is a lot more analogous to business than team sports. Businesses don't really work like team sports. They work like individual sports, where ultimately you tally up the points at the end. And if everybody is performing well, the team performs well. It's a lot more similar than, a basketball team or a soccer team in my mind. So it's, how do you get the best out of all the individual people and then put them on the field and make them successful in their own way. So I think if you unpack the layers of things that you learn in sports and come with a different perspective, you're going to get a ton of attention from people. And then anybody that, if I ever see somebody with a Bucknell connection or degree, I'll take an extra time with them and see if there's something I can help them with. But, that's their opportunity to stand out. So just find a way to stand out.
I mean, I can really only echo like what a lot of these guys have said and speak to like my personal experience, but I found that just the Bucknell alumni network and the alumni connections are really valuable. I mean, it's like you can compare it to getting a nice apartment with like a bunch of nice amenities that you might not use. Like when you leave Bucknell, the alumni network is a really good amenity that you really should use. My current position, after I was swim coaching for 4 years, I just started talking to one of the parents of my kids. And it turns out he worked for a software company. He didn't go to Bucknell, but he went to Lehigh. He knew a couple of Bucknell people. I started talking to them, and then they kind of opened the door for an opportunity at, essentially a different software company. So it's just, it kind of didn't necessarily like fall into the lap. You still have, like Mark said at the beginning, you still got to show up and, show that you have some value. But I just, from my own personal experience, that was just, the most valuable piece that I left there with, more valuable than the piece of paper.
I thought it was appropriate to wait my turn this time because I got to go first. Thanks, Dan, on the other questions. But I was going to kind of take it the way Steve did. As you know, I certainly, I'm sure I don't have the heaviest job in the room, but we have 2,000 employees. And even if it was my own child, all I would do is get them in the room, to pull strings. If Mark called me tomorrow and said he wanted to teach in my school district, I would just get him an interview. The rest is on him. So it's really more about the lessons learned and the teamwork and the leadership. I am very confident that I'll outwork anyone. And I felt the same way when I was in the pool. That I leave my house before 5 a.m. every day. And if I have to stay till 10 at work, I do. So it's more about the lessons I learned and, the regimen, the working hard, than it is necessarily the name on the diploma. I do think there's an advantage there, at least in my world, in education. Not many people go to a school like Bucknell want to be a teacher. So I think maybe my application stood out because it's like, oh, not many people go to Bucknell and want to teach math at a high school initially. But other than that, I don't think the actual networking benefited me one bit. I just think it's more about the life lessons that I learned and what I was doing while I was there.
And that provides a great segue, Todd. So I appreciate that. The life lessons, the things that you learn from your experience, 4 years as a member of the Bucknell swimming and diving team, 4 years as a student athlete. If we were going to push you and we're just going to say one, and I'm sure there's more than one, there's probably some overlap, we'll ask each of you to give one skill that you took away from your time at Bucknell that you feel has helped you in your future endeavors, whether it's personal, professional. What is something that you took from this time at Bucknell that you have found that skill that's really helped you in the next steps of your life?
I think Bucknell made me believe in myself. I was a good student, not a great student. And in high school, I was a good swimmer, not a great swimmer. I often felt overmatched at Bucknell, academically and socially. I'm not the most outgoing person either. But I really think I matured in a way, so many ways. And so it really helped me gain confidence because I wasn't all that confident prior to. But there's people often joke, some people in my social circle, like people are more proud of the fact that they went to Bucknell than any other school I've ever met. Right. And it's so true. Like they like brainwash you when you're there in a good way. Right. I mean, we have such a sense of pride, even from that first night you get on campus and you go to Rook Chapel. Right. So I think it instilled a confidence in me. And I really grew up a lot in a lot of ways that has benefited me time and time again.
I think for me, I've only really started realizing this probably more in the last couple of years and maybe more so when you have kids and all that. I think it's just, instilled a sense of like a lack of entitlement, and just knowing that just kind of realizing, maybe it's not something that I picked up while I was there, but it's something that I picked up since I've been there, and realizing how lucky I was and how, I could have ended up at a place that was nowhere near just all around the caliber that Bucknell was at. I've seen what other schools have to offer in a lot of ways. And I realized even more lately how lucky I was to be given what I was given, at Bucknell in terms of the resources, athletically, academically, just the food on campus, living on campus, like everything is just a dream there. And I've seen, like I said, I've seen a lot of other campuses since then, and I've seen how, it's just a lot of places just don't measure up. And so anyway, long story short, I just feel very grateful. And I think, since then I've come to realize even more that, you should just be very thankful for what you have in life, because, it's not, you're not, entitled to it at all in any way, no matter how rich your family is, how poor they are. You should just be thankful for what you have. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll go off what Schwanhausser said earlier about the networking thing. And I was thinking about this question. I've been thinking about this a lot recently, but I think swimming, the sport, as an individual sport, like when you're on the block, you're by yourself. Like there's no one else that could swim that race for you. And I think, especially like somewhere at Patriots, you're a high seed or the top seed, there's a lot of pressure. And the skill of being able to absorb that pressure and that anxiety, the stress maybe, and mentally deal with that and then project it into something productive is something I took for granted until recently, realizing that that's a thing that really just got instilled with me with swimming and sports in general, but really swimming. And I think don't take the mental aspect of swimming for granted, because it can be very crippling, and it could, if you don't channel it properly. And I think learning to do that properly is a skill set in being a parent or being a person in any kind of job that is valuable.
At the risk of being potentially a little bit cliche, I would say stress and time management. I think any student athlete in a Division I setting, and particularly at a school like Bucknell that has such strong academics alongside that, forces you into a crash course in time management and dealing with more stress than a typical college student would have to deal with. And I think learning those skills and how to sort of bifurcate and tackle bigger things and do it one step at a time, while also, showing up on time for your commitments and still getting to class and still getting all your work done, is something that translates well into all aspects of your life, both professionally and personally.
I was also going to mention time management, but since Adam did a great job talking about it. I do have a backup. And I would say it's just, swimming, it kind of taught you get what you put into it. You get out of it what you put into it. I mean, you're not going to go best times at Patriots if you take it easy or you're not giving it 100%, and it's the same in the classroom. If you don't do your homework, you're not, some classes grade on it, some grade on attendance, some don't. That's kind of goes off the time management thing. But, if you don't do all that work, then it's probably going to show up. And, it's just the combination of doing all of those things. Most people, you got the swim team and then you have your classes, but a lot of people have other things. There are different clubs, there's fraternities, sororities, there's, all this other stuff added onto it. And I think swimming, above all, you kind of have that team commitment. Even though you swim your individual races other than relays, you have that team commitment that, you want to put out the best for your team. And you don't want to be that person showing up late and maybe putting in like 50% effort. And I really just think it kind of gets you working hard through all the different areas throughout the day. And then it kind of just carries over after that.
One of the things I think is really unique about Bucknell is just how you learn to build relationships. I mean, you drop 3,000 kids and a couple hundred kegs in the middle of a cow patty and just let them figure it out for 4 years. You don't have the distractions of other things. You can't kind of get away. And so it forces a social interaction that I think is a lot more similar to real life than, even though it seems like a total bubble, you're put in a room with people that you don't know, and you've got to figure out, who you want to be close with and, who you don't. And, that learning how to build those kinds of, truly lifelong relationships and ferret through that. I think that's a life skill I never really understood at the time, but looking back on it, I'm not sure I would have gotten it in the same all-encompassing way at a bigger school or a city school or something that didn't have that dynamic to it. And it was just exacerbated by the fact that, I was part of a couple of teams that were, that were the center of that.
All right. Well, thank you. And so before I turn it back over to Todd, I just wanted to thank all you guys again for taking time out tonight to share some great stories, relive some great memories, and on some great advice. And so thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, Dan. And first, I want to turn my attention to Leo. And thank you again for taking the time to join us tonight. We're going to keep a positive frame of mind and say that you're going to be competing in that pool behind me soon. We're all hoping for that. We're keeping our fingers crossed. And I know that if you are, you'll be doing a great job. We'll all be cheering for you and rooting for the Bison. So good luck with that. And then thanks again, guys, as Coach mentioned, for making this happen tonight. The way you represented Bucknell when you were here, both in the pool and outside the pool, and all that you did for the university. And more importantly, thank you for what you've done for Bucknell swimming since then. The swimming and diving programs at Bucknell are truly a family, and that family doesn't succeed without the support that we get from our alumni. So I thank you guys for that. Those of you that tuned in tonight at home to watch, we thank you for doing so. And go Bison.